And welcome to the Midday Show. Old school background. We've got some technical difficulties, but we're going to make it work for you today because the Grinch has been caught. We're going to talk about the decoration thief. The arrest was made by local police. We're going to dive into it. We got some other stuff. I want to keep boring you with the FTX stuff because he did interviews. I thought it was hilarious. There's a LeBron thing. There's some stuff going on in the news. How are you feeling today?
I'm a little nervous. There's a lot of racial things that we can talk about. Friday, we try not to go intellectual very much. We might have to today. And so, there's some little touchiness.
Okay.
But part of the issue with America is we've certainly lost the ability to have intelligent discussions in public forums.
We've lost the ability to be okay with disagreeing with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and we draw a line, whatever the topic is.
I disagree with you every day.
Every day. Well, we're different. But when you make your stance, by God, don't you say anything contrary to what I said, or we're going to fight.
Yeah.
Even though, if you're on the Penn State, because like Penn State football, they suck. Well, they're 10-2. That's not really. There's a lot of teams who would love to suck that bad.
Yeah.
Or they're one of the top 4 programs. Nah, they're not. So the people who take the hardline stance, who won't have keep an open mind enough to talk, make these conversations impossible, let alone difficult.
Yeah, no, we'll be right back. We're going to talk about the Grinch thief. We're coming back. Decoration thief. It's on the horizon.
Sorry, I ran.
All I wanna do is feel awesome. All I wanna do is feel awesome. All I wanna do is feel awesome.
Don't ever apologize for being you.
I didn't hear any.
Don't ever apologize.
I didn't hear any of that. Is that a problem?
No, it's not, because I could hear it over here.
Okay, I saw this.
No, it's
when you said old school, I just thought old school. I used to just ramble. I didn't know. Now I have 5 seconds to get a little jab in, and then we go.
And then we go to the intro and everything else. Grinch caught. You can find the story on NorthcentralPa.com. Grinch caught. Local news story leads to the recovery of stolen blow mold decorations. Can you help me out? As a millennial, I just always thought they were plastic decorations.
Well, I think they are.
Okay,
I think they're the same thing.
The blow mold is how they were basically refined. It's how they were made.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so factory.
I think we're talking about the same thing.
Okay,
yes.
because I've never heard them called blow mold before. So I did a little investigation last night because obviously I saw the blow mold and I was like, blow mold. If you go online and you look up some of these old school Christmas decorations, I was blown away at what people are getting triple digits for some of these things, almost like collectible items.
Mm-hmm.
They're just hard to come by. They're super old now. Originally I was thinking, how stupid of someone to get caught stealing Christmas decorations. This is so dumb. It's still dumb, but after looking it up online, I was kind of like, oh, okay, this isn't.
Oh, there's a market. The nostalgia there.
Yes.
It's like stealing Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Because they're worth a lot.
A little bit. It is. So we're going to talk about this story. Let's do this. Let's talk about the story first. And then I want to bring back an old segment that we used to talk about that is called, But If I Did. And you see, you're already laughing because we used to do this occasionally on the show. So
did we ever do it well?
Did we ever what?
We did it, but did we ever do it well?
Well, we're going to try today. We're going to try today. So essentially, here's what happened. Old Lycoming Township, Christmas magic returned for several children in Williamsport, and their beloved holiday blow molds were recovered on Wednesday. For those of you like me, those are just the plastic Christmas decorations that you put in your front yard. The recovery of the blow molds and arrest of 2 suspects came less than a day after NorthcentralPa.com, I've heard of them, published an article about the recent theft of the holiday decorations. 2 South Williamsport residents were arrested and charged for the thefts, which had occurred in South Williamsport, Montoursville, and surrounding areas. According to, and I just want to, this is kind of why we did all this, but according to the police chiefs, your story is what commenced this, Kreiner told NorthcentralPa.com. This is a nice example of media and police working together. So there you go. So ran the story. People saw the story. They reached out to police, said, hey, I just bought some decorations.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yep, I just bought some decorations.
Because that's what
be linked.
People in the office were like, hey, did you see this? And I was like, how did we help?
I was one of them.
Well, yes, we were in the back, and
Yes.
people were talking out front, and we were like, we don't get it. So he said, we ran the story, and someone read our story and said, wait a minute, I just bought some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe this stuff is stolen, and called the police, and then that's how they figured it out. It does not, to go further, to go back to the price, because like, kudos to us. Yay, we feel like we made society a better place for a day. There are Christmas decorations that, I'm 51 years old, that I remember when I was a kid.
Okay.
And, I'd ask my mom, whatever happened to that? And she goes, oh my God, your aunt and I took a ceramics class when we were in our 20s, just to get away from you kids, and just to get
Right.
and we would make these trees, and we would make these. And I was like, but that's what I remember from my childhood.
Right.
So for all these, like back in the day,
Right.
these blow molds were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So all these people that are my age and whatever grew up with them. It's like, have you seen, you might not have seen it because it's not the right algorithm for you, but anyone my age has seen the Evel Knievel crank bike from like 1974. And it goes in, they're making it again, and they're releasing it again, because old people like me are like, oh my God, I had that.
Yeah.
And it was, you're building RAM, and then the mechanics of it, you just cranked it as hard until you just stopped it.
Sure.
You just did a hard stop, and then it took off. And so it's just people buying, not even just buying, people loving nostalgia. Sure. And we talked about, when Joe Smith was here the other day, the magic of Christmas, the nostalgia of Christmas, and so much of it. I remember when I was a kid, my two grandmothers, both my grandfathers had passed. My grandmothers would stay with us on Christmas Eve, and they would sleep in my brother and my bed, and we would get relegated to the basement floor or something like that. But it's so we didn't have to wait for them in the morning. Like, once the kids rolled out of bed, let's go. And that now is one of my great memories of Christmas as a kid, just having my grandmothers there. Yeah. So I totally understand the rising, the eBay value, or the online, the Facebook marketplace value of these things. Yeah. And I'm sure these people saw that, like, obviously they were easy to take. Yes. Because they're just sitting out in the yard. I mean, what kind of a Grinch would take Christmas ornaments?
Well, before we get into, but if I did, that is one of the, I don't want to say ingenious of it, but if you are going to if you're going to say, why did they do it or how did they do it? They're incredibly light. I mean, to go and you can carry, despite the size of these things, you can carry 3 or 4 of them at the same time if you're doing it the right way.
You could probably carry 5 or 6 because you grew up on a farm.
That's, well, yes. In a figurative sense, yes, I grew up on a farm. So it's not like you're stealing something that's like, how do we move it? Like, what do we do with it? So this is what I wanted to play with you today, because we like to try to talk about these things in different angles. And obviously it's a travesty. Obviously no one should have their Christmas decorations taken away. I hope everybody gets their decorations in their yard and they get to keep them, and they're bright and they're shiny and everyone's happy. I have never stolen Christmas decorations. I will never steal Christmas decorations. But if I did, I don't think I would keep them in my own garage. I don't think I would sell them on a local marketplace. Like, to me, this was very, the concept after we actually took the Christmas decorations, if you and I are in this together and we take the Christmas decorations, everything after seems completely misjudged.
Where else do you keep them?
Not your garage.
Where?
Not your garage. There's got to be somewhere else. You can't keep them in your garage. There's got to be somewhere else you can put these things. You're just going to keep them in your garage?
I mean, I don't think you put them in a storage
unit. If you stole a car, are you just going to park it in your garage?
Where else you can put it?
I'm just saying. I don't anywhere but my own property, probably. My local residency?
Well, then you're going to put it on somebody else's property. Or you're going to put it on state game land.
So you're saying there is nowhere else to put the stuff?
I don't know where else you'd put it.
So you just got to line it up in there and hope for the best.
Well, okay, say you stole $20 from me.
Okay.
Aren't you going to take it home? Where else would you put it?
I mean, to be honest, I'm probably spending it.
Well, but that's the point.
That's what
you got to put it somewhere, and you're either putting it at your house or you're putting it on somebody else's house.
I've never stolen Christmas decorations. I never will steal Christmas decorations. But if I did, wouldn't it behoove you? I think this is how we would do it. I think I would say to you, let's take pictures of the decorations we believe we could get. Like, let's drive around, and if we think we'd be able to take this one, we're going to take a picture of it, and then we're going to put that on the marketplace. And then when people order them, we will then go out and we will collect them. Yes. So
you've turned this into Gone in 60 Seconds.
Your inventory is on the lawn.
Have you ever seen Gone in 60 Seconds?
Is it, time out. Will you give me credit? That is kind of the way you should do it. Why is that not the way you should do it?
Because what if someone calls and orders this ornament and someone else stole it first? Now you can't provide it. What kind of business are you?
You say it sold. The last one just sold. That's easy.
But they already bought it.
Chump change.
They already bought it.
What do you mean they already bought it?
They already told you they want it.
So you refund them. What are you talking about?
Well, you can't have a bid. Oh yeah, here, send us the money. I'll have one. Oops, gone. I'll give it back.
You've never ordered something online in which they then ran out or they didn't have the type you wanted and then they refunded you the money. That's never happened to you before.
I don't think so.
You've never dealt with like a return or like
I've dealt with returns because it wasn't what I thought it was, but never like, oh yeah, I'll take a pair of Nike size 10. And they're like, okay, give us the money. And then they turn around and say, oops, we sold all the 10.
Yeah, and then they just give you the money back.
But then they can't keep track of their own inventory. You're selling what you don't have. That's a bad business model.
By the way,
even if you're going to be a criminal, if you're going to be a criminal, you still need to have a good business model.
Even in the what's funny is you're lecturing me, and that whole principle was based off somebody else stealing the ornament before us. So you're lecturing me on a business model in which your normalcy is someone else is already out Grinching us for the Christmas.
When your business model is based on theft, you have to understand there's competition. Every business has competition.
No, I think that's what I would do. I think I would take pictures of the lawn ornaments, and then I think I would put them as my inventory. So essentially what happens is your inventory is everyone else's lawn. That's what you're doing. I just think the point
I guess when you're stealing from other people, no matter what it is, you there's a brazenness to like whatever. Sure. But the garage
thing surprised me, and then the selling it locally is just like, what do you do? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. I think anyone who would be willing to steal someone's lawn ornament, someone's Christmas lawn ornaments, there's issues already. That's what I think.
I don't disagree with that at all. So, anything else about this story that you noticed it's pretty cut and dry. Ornaments were stolen. I mean, we're talking, by the way, for people who don't know, thousands of dollars of Christmas decorations. Like, this is not like a $5.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, as you're talking about the street value of this stuff, that there were thousands taken off of one lawn. You know, some houses probably only had a couple, but if you had 10 of these,
well, if you go online, some of these, like I saw some online that were going for like $2,000.
Oh my God!
I mean,
I would have thought it was $200 or $300.
Now those are the ones that some are right. Like you're right. Some are $50, some are $250, $500. But like some of these like really hard to find vintage like collectible ones. I mean, you're talking 4 digits. It's wild.
It's crazy.
It's really, really wild.
We help. The world is better. Merry Christmas. Yes, yay for us.
Merry Christmas to everybody. Also, shout out to Weis Markets, grocery rewards, gas rewards. You said, what did you say was the last thing you got there yesterday?
Gas was yesterday.
Okay. Joe Smith said the pizzas. He likes the pizzas.
Yeah, if you're hosting, if you need pizza, you need it quick. It is not expensive. It is good. It's not,
Sure.
It's not like made like you would make in your kitchen if you were, I'm trying to think. I was going to say Chef Boyardee. I was trying to think of an Italian guy.
Yeah.
But especially you teenagers around, whatever, it is way better than they deserve.
Sure. No, I agree. I enjoy it. I couldn't get the new graphic to work today. I just couldn't get it to load. It wouldn't help me out. So we're stuck with the old one. However, I am enjoying the old one because we have a Flamingos, Go Flamingos championship football team that you were a part of. We have the Messina bobblehead. We've got the pennants going on. So I miss the old background a little bit. It's actually nice to see it again.
Interesting.
I'm enjoying it. A couple of headlines here today. The Kanye West stuff is wild. I don't know if you've kept up with it or not.
I've not.
How
about the Antonio Brown stuff?
Antonio Brown stuff.
Whatever happened, and this is my ignorance of how did it end?
As far as
there was a police standoff, wasn't there?
So I don't know enough of the details, but my understanding is that police were involved. I don't know if it was like a standoff or not, but It is.
I don't know if there's ever been a professional athlete who it was so clear had mental illness issues as Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there were back, whatever. But he was so good.
Yeah.
As he's in the argument. And I'm sure this is tainting all of the stuff that he did. But there was a half dozen years where he was just open every play. Yeah. And it wasn't because other teams weren't scheming against him someone said to me yesterday, he got Ben Roethlisberger to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for that. And it is just so sad.
And he will not be the last story. There's some of the football stories that are going to come out are only going to get worse
because of CTE.
Just the CTE and what we're learning about it, and it's already a sad story. It's not going to get better.
No, I'm with you. And at least the thing of the society's awareness of CTE, I think there's a little bit of, not even a little bit. I think there's a real amount of compassion for all these guys when they seem like, a diva or, a wild card or whatever you want to say, a loose cannon, whatever cliche you want to throw with it. Understanding of the Junior Seaus and the people who ended up, taking their own life. That it is bad.
There's a couple of universities. This was before COVID had happened, because now every medical chart you see is a COVID chart. Before COVID, there was a couple of charts done by, I wish I could remember the university name, but I don't want to make up a university. But they put out a chart, and essentially what it showed was the rise of like CTE, retired football players who clearly had medical conditions or mental issues. And they also juxtaposed the chart with the rise of youth football. And so on this chart, on this chart, it actually showed that the peak of, meaning kids starting to play helmet-to-helmet football at the age of 5 and above, and it shows that peak, we will not reach those people being 24 years old for another 5 years. So at the time, it was before. So 2025 is when they believe we will reach the peak of people that like strapped on a helmet, like from age 5 onward. And they're implying, so that's why they're kind of like, yes, we're taking precautions now. Like you saw this past year, they tried like the fluffy football helmets at training camp, and they're trying all these different things. But the point of the study was like, we're not even close to being able to solve it, because some of these people have been playing for 20 years now, and they're not even in the professional.
I'll say this, and I love high school football. I love high school football. My son played. Now I played Pop Warner football from the time I was 8 years old. Yeah. And my son played 1 year of youth football, and then went back out in junior high. And he's JV quarterback. I'm in Toursville, and he's fine. My nephew, who was an all-state quarterback, was a 4-year starter at Shippensburg. Now he's 6'3". I mean, he's built like a quarterback, and he's a super athlete, super arm.
Sure.
He played 1 year of youth football, and I think he was in 7th grade, and he played tight end. The first year he ever played youth football, he played tight end because he's tall and lanky. Sure. Tight end defense then. In 8th grade, he played quarterback for the first time in his life in junior high. In 9th grade, he was the backup varsity quarterback.
Right.
So it's not this aspect of, we see these skill developments. You can see a basketball kid who's been playing since he was 5. You can see a baseball hitter who's been hitting since he was. You can see it. In football, he went from, in 6th grade, he had never played. In 7th grade, he was a tight end. In 10th grade, he's the starting varsity quarterback.
Sure.
And there are lots and lots of, if football is the one sport, you don't have to play your whole life. I had one of my best friends in life. His dad would not let him play until he got to high school, and he begged and begged and begged. As a sophomore was the first time he ever got to play football. As a junior, he was our leading receiver.
Sure.
And it is, so yes, I never told my kid he couldn't play.
Sure.
But I was not I never pushed my kid. Well, I never pushed him anyway, and I never thought he would play football because I didn't think he'd like it.
Well, one of the other things that they're trying to study with CTE is, I think, like when we think of concussions, our concept of concussions as like a normal viewer is very different than what a doctor or a scientist thinks of a football concussion. So
what you're saying is they think of it intelligently, and we think of it like simpletons.
And here's the perfect example. When we watch a game or see a highlight, it's a wide receiver getting cracked across the middle, right? And we all go, ooh, right?
It's the cringy play.
It's the quarterback getting blindsided, right? And we go, ooh. What a lot of like the people that are studying this are realizing is those 2 or 3 instances that happens to a running back or a wide receiver or a corner, like those types of things, are almost mute compared to the head-to-head trauma of the linemen in the trenches.
Because they do it every play.
And the linebackers and running backs that are like the fullbacks, like the people that are in the middle of it. And they're saying that like you don't notice it because they're closer together.
It's a cumulative effect.
Yes. And they're saying that you essentially over a career, like let's say someone plays 4 years in college and then plays 10 years in the pros. So let's say 15 years. In 15 years, the accumulation of like a center just snapping it, colliding is way worse than the quarterback who gets blindsided a dozen times in his career.
You know, one of the things that I'd read about, and I don't know what the study, are soccer players and heading the ball.
Yeah.
Because when you head the ball, like one header, you know, it's not, and they did it forever. But if you played soccer your whole life and you did it over and over and over and over,
if you're repping it out, right? If you're practicing it,
right?
Yeah.
So, yes, it is. Mike Webster was one of the famous ones, the Steelers center, who was a Hall of Fame center, who was a great player, and just once he got out of football, it was a mess.
Yeah.
And they couldn't figure out why until he passed away, and then they found this.
Yes.
It is. Yeah, it's scary, and I don't know if that's all of Antonio Brown's issue, part of Antonio Brown's issue, but there's obviously an issue there, and yeah, it is scary.
Yeah,
the gladiators that are there for our entertainment, in so many times are dying in the arena, even though they don't really die for years.
I said to you, I have former athletes that I've coached. I have friends who played like in college and in high school, and I've told you before, if you line up those people with other people their age that didn't play football, you can tell. Like you can physically tell who was a fullback on their high school football
because
team.
Us football players are sexier?
That's what it is.
Oh,
yes.
I thought that's where you're going.
Only you could find a way to make a sexy CTE joke.
Sorry. My bad. Yeah, that might not have been.
No, I'm just messing with you.
That might not have been the high point of my day.
No, but it is. I sincerely mean it. Like now that I'm into my 30s and I can see friends and when they say like, you can tell which one was a fullback and which one didn't play, or you can tell which one was a lineman and which one was like the wide receiver who just kind of like
caught the ball and ran out of bounds.
Stood out. Yeah. I mean, you can physically see it and when they move. So it's not even like the gladiator professional athlete, like for entertainment, just like in normal society. I mean, your lifestyle is completely different as to what you did as a high school.
And the linemen, they're doing it in practice. It's every day.
Yeah. Now, again, they're getting better. Like the differences in practices and technique and all that stuff. There's no doubt that people are trying to do the right thing to make it better, but it's rough right now. Just you want to fly through some of these? And
let's fly.
Alex Jones, I told you that he filed for personal bankruptcy. I'm assuming, I agree with you, he's probably doing it to be able to keep some of his assets, protect some of his assets. I'm assuming this has a lot to do with the lawsuit he just lost.
Yeah, I would think.
I would imagine the correlation there is causation, is what I would guess. We had Biden signed a bill to avert the rail worker strike. Despite lack of paid sick days. So sounds like the rail workers got some of what they wanted. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like they got most of what they wanted. I was going through the rights of rail workers. This was like in the summertime when some of this was going on. And it's not great. Like you're talking multiple weeks on the job, very little sick leave, very little benefits. I mean, it is, when you think of how important the railway system is to America in the economy and retail and all of that. I mean, it is fascinating how little the rail worker system, how much the employees get.
It doesn't.
No,
it doesn't shock me in the least.
Okay, no, shock. You're right. Shock isn't a fair word.
Oh yeah, it is fascinating, but it's not shocking.
Yeah. No, that's a very, very fair point. I hadn't thought of that. FTX Sam Bankman-Fried has been going around doing all of his. He's basically doing personal interviews. He was with MSNBC for an interview. He actually did a Fox interview. He's been going around doing all these interviews.
And by going around, he's sitting in Bermuda.
He's sitting
at his
in
parents'
the Bahamas.
place.
He's sitting in his parents' place. It is. I think I said to you the other day. It is fascinating to watch some of this stuff because there just seems to be very little. The lack of remorse and the lack of understanding on his part is. I'm confounded.
Well, didn't you say he's 25?
He's in his 20s.
We were talking about, just of teenagers and, in coaching and stuff, and the self-absorbedness of teenagers.
Sure.
And he's just probably a 25-year-old teenager.
Yeah.
And, that would be my guess.
What's amazing to me is you hear like everyone talked about him being this like savant, and everyone was like, he's so intelligent and he's so bright and all this. And then he does these interviews and he doesn't have an answer for anything. And yet the same people are just kind of like, well, he's a kid, he's lost. It's like, well, what is it? Because on one hand, you're telling me the dude's like,
he's a genius.
He's a genius and he's savant and he knows all this. And then like he does this interview and like he doesn't have an answer for he doesn't know how any of it works. He doesn't know where any of it is. And I'm just like, how can it be? It can't be both. It can't possibly be both.
No, I agree.
It's just very, very weird. The Kanye West stuff is, in my opinion, the Kanye West stuff is sad. I understand for some people who's not a fan of Kanye West, this was like coming down the pipe and there's very little remorse for him. And I get that. He obviously announced that he wanted to run for president again. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not.
He had a meeting, personal meeting with Trump.
Okay.
There was the Milos guy, who I don't know if you know him or not. He's kind of like a far right kind of like, I don't even know.
Oh, is this the one at Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah.
That Trump got in trouble for?
Yes. Well, apparently
in trouble.
Apparently in this meeting, Trump tried to talk Kanye West out of running for president. Kanye West kind of got offended. Fuentes, who is the guy, he was involved in the Penn State stuff. He apparently was there. Apparently he had Trump's ear. This upset Kanye West even more. So apparently Kanye West made a scene there as well. I don't know, just really sad. I am sad because this is a bad example. There are people that can still listen to Michael Jackson's music because they can separate the artist.
The art from the artist.
Yes. I think, I don't think it's quite to that point, but it's obviously becoming harder and harder. Like there's going to come a point where people are going to be like, I can't believe you listen to Kanye West. And I'm going to be like, sorry, musically, he's a genius. I had a conversation with my daughter about this very topic because of J.K. Rowling's comments about transgender or LGBTQ. I'm not sure, but she has a very hard stance. Sure.
And because we were talking about it, and my favorite one is the one with Sirius Black.
Okay.
And I can't remember which one that was.
There's a lot of them.
But I never read any of the books. I saw the movies. The brilliance of it is obvious. The storytelling, the characters, it's just, even though a lot of it's a Star Wars ripoff. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
All the similarities between.
Yeah.
But anyway, be that as it may, still brilliant. And I said to my daughter, it's unfortunate that you have trouble separating the two. And I use that same. I was like, I love Michael Jackson. Billie Jean is one of the greatest songs of all time.
Yeah.
Was Michael Jackson a pedophile? There's a good chance.
Yeah.
Or a reasonable chance or whatever. I don't know. He paid
right.
But when I sing along to Billie Jean, I don't feel guilty.
Sure.
She said, it's a valid point. It's because he's dead. And he's not benefiting off you if she's like, if I go buy a copy of, or if I rent a copy of that J.K. Rowling is still alive, and I don't want to. And I was like, but whatever she gets off your one movie rental is not affecting her lifestyle. And
that's true. Them being dead is an interesting perspective, because what Michael Jackson did, to me, like most of the time when you have these discussions, when the person is dead, it's not so much that they're dead, it's the concept that what they did was so long ago. It happened at a time where that stuff just happened, right? Like that would be, Michael Jackson being dead, though, doesn't really, like, clearly being a pedophile at the time Michael Jackson was alive was not acceptable.
Correct.
So that the argument of him being dead is interesting. I don't know if I agree with it.
Well, like, I mean, from the aspect, he's not going to benefit off any more record sales, and he's not going to.
Who owns his? Do you know? You're a music guru. Do you know who owns his estate?
I
I don't know who actually owns it. Is it his family?
I think.
Okay.
I think Lisa Marie is the head of it, or whatever.
So it is
you
going somewhere.
know, he owned the Beatles stuff for a while.
Yes, I did know that.
And that was the end of him and Paul McCartney were really good friends. They did The Girl Is Mine. They did Say Say Say.
Right.
And then McCartney, because apparently McCartney's famous cheapskate.
Yeah.
And he was haggling over the price of the Beatles music catalog.
Okay.
Because he's like, I wrote all this.
Yeah.
Why am I? Which is a valid argument.
Sure.
But there's contract law and all that. And they were and apparently Michael Jackson swooped in and bought it while he was negotiating, and that was the end of their friendship. Speaking of that, and I know this isn't where we're going. Did we talk about Barkley and Jordan on the air yesterday? No, Tom was here yesterday.
Yeah.
Did you see Barkley wants to mend fences?
He wants to air it out with them. I think it's possible. I think a cigar and a round of golf can.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Barkley and Jordan Barkley said he was my best friend.
Sure.
Barkley's TV, talking head now for
right.
NBA basketball, and Jordan's an executive with Charlotte. And is he the owner, the general?
Yeah.
He
owns
the whole team.
Yeah.
16. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep.
So, and the 1 year they were 7 and whatever, or 9 and whatever. It's not been good.
There's a lot of people that refer to him as the worst owner in sports.
Okay.
Like, that's not uncommon to hear people
And
say.
Barkley came out. He said, I know he's my friend. And he goes, but I come in here and I critique and I criticize coaches and I criticize general managers, and I can't, in good conscience, not criticize him. He surrounded himself with the wrong people. And Charles said after that, there was one phone conversation, which was not pleasant. Yeah. And they haven't spoke since. Yeah. It's been 10 years.
I think they'll figure it out. I do. You know what's happening now is because of Kobe dying the way he did and so suddenly. I think you see a lot of these. Shaq came out and said, like, I should have just called him, right? And you see a lot of these athletes like bearing the hatchet that maybe they wouldn't have thought about doing it or wouldn't have been as willing to do it. So it'll be interesting.
But yes, but you can also understand why Michael Jordan got to be Michael Jordan, because everything he did worked and everything he did was right, even when it didn't work, it was still the right thing to do. And there are lots of people who can't apologize and admit fault.
Well, this is
maybe he's one of them.
This is the problem with Michael Jordan being an owner, is he can't just go and do it himself.
Correct.
Like Michael Jordan isn't a bad owner because he doesn't care. Michael Jordan is a bad owner because the only way he knows how to be successful is to literally go do it and drag everybody else along with him. And for some people, that's heroic. For some people, it's kind of like, well, he was kind of a jerk. Both can be right. I am not shocked at all that he's a bad owner because he can't physically go do the thing that needs to make you successful.
One of the statements when John Elway became one of the bigwigs with Denver, and he went out and got Peyton Manning, and he's had some success. Obviously, I don't even know if he's still there. I think he is. The Russell Wilson stuff isn't working out, but one of the statements about Elway, which I thought was fascinating, because Elway's a Stanford guy. Elway's not dumb. And the guy said why he thought John would be successful in this realm, even though a lot of famous guys were not good coaches, not famous, superstar athletes were not good at it. He said Elway knows very well what he doesn't know. And he would get the people around him to do that. But you can almost imagine in Michael Jordan's world, he's surrounded by people who never tell him no.
Sure.
Because the money's all,
and they're excited that he is him.
And yes, so then you put people on the payroll, and they'd rather be on the payroll on a team that wins 9 games than be fired off a team that wins 20 games.
Sure. Well, and he has been known to hire friends.
Right.
Is like the politest way to put it. So,
but it's the other aspect is go. I see this in Little League all the time. When you see a bad Little League team, it's probably because the manager picked his best friend's kid.
Gotcha.
And the aspect isn't, I don't think it's I think it's to protect the. I don't think Jordan's putting his friends there to help his friends.
Okay.
I think he's putting his friends there to protect him, because now I don't have somebody else who is a professional who said, I'm not going to go out and get a guy who's a 10-year GM who comes in with a resume and says, listen, I know who you are, but I know this job.
I understand your argument. I would disagree with the sentiment, though, because of what we know about Michael Jordan. Like, for Michael Jordan, winning and success trumped friendship. It trumped everything. It was part of the reason why people think he's a jerk. And so the idea that he would sacrifice success or winning for his own, I don't necessarily buy.
I don't think they do it intent. I don't think it's on the surface. They're telling themselves, like, and I'll go back to Little League because I've seen it 100 times in Little League. I think the guy saying, I'm going to draft my buddy's kid. I'm going to give that kid he's going to have a better experience with me than someone else, and they tell themselves all these reasons. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, they just don't, they're nervous about working with someone they don't know. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the reasons that, like, when I was coming through Little League, my teams had success because I was just like, I don't know that guy, but I bet he's a nice guy and I'll be able to get along with him. And that's how. So you pick the best kid on the board and you work, or the best kid available, and you work with his dad, as opposed to, this is the dad I want to work with and I'm stuck with his kid.
I understand that. But in your scenario, winning was not the most important thing.
But I think they convinced themselves it wouldn't hurt them. I'm sure Jordan's like, I can hire these people. I'm still going to win because I'm Jordan.
You're probably right.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, we just disagree. We just disagree on the sentiment. I think because otherwise he would just sell the team. Like if he disliked it, or I think the only reason he still owns that team is because in his mind, at some point we will be good and it will justify everything I've done.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And so, like, I just can't imagine he's making choices and just being okay with being bad. I think he's made wrong choices. He's made wrong picks or wrong influences. I still think, though, that winning aspect, he's not making those choices because he's okay sacrificing winning. Like he is making those choices because he truly believes that we will win and it will work. You seem to be to me, you're almost saying that he's willing to sacrifice X because he doesn't want to be challenged, or he wants to be around people that he knows. And what we know about him, I find that hard to believe.
No, I get it.
I think he's way too competitive to just be like, you know what, like, I'm going to hire Bob because, like, whether we win or not, I've won enough in my life.
No, I think his thought is, I'm going to hire Bob and we're still going to win because I'm Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. And I know more about basketball than all these people.
Yes, but the challenge is he doesn't know more about basketball. He just knows how he's better than everybody else. He was a better player than everyone else. And now his challenge is he can't physically go do it. Yes. He can't. Even the Nike stuff. Like if you read about his Nike, the shoes and everything else, it's amazing how much of that was him. Like his call, his decision making, like what he wanted to do, the feel of it, like all of it. And so everything he's ever been successful at in his life, he dragged everyone with him.
I get it.
And he just can't do that. As an owner of a basketball team, it's hard to drag everybody with you. It's very difficult to do that because you're outside of the snow globe. Like you can't go onto the floor. You can't go onto the bench. You can't. So how is you can shake it all you want, but what happens on the inside, it's probably the first time in his life he can't directly affect the result of what is happening. That's my guess.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The only other thing I would have mentioned, but we have to go because of our meeting. I just was going to bring up the COVID protest stuff in China, the zero COVID. Have you kept up with this?
I remember they locked the people in and they burned to death. That's what I know.
It is getting worse. More and more protests. They're dragging people out of their apartments now if they test positive. It's a really sticky situation they're in because when they put this zero COVID policy in, mathematically it made sense. I think they had, the last numbers I saw, they had over 5,000 deaths. Now, again, this is their numbers. You have to take it with a grain of salt. They had 5,000 deaths to COVID. We had millions. So their argument to the people was like, look, like this is why we're doing this. The problem now, though, is everybody's out and about and COVID can't back out of it. Or I'm sorry, China can't back out of it because they will go through the same things every other country went through if they do. So they're in a tough spot. What they're going to do and how they're going to keep people, quote unquote, healthy because you can't keep them indoors forever. I mean, at some point,
You wouldn't think.
what happens there is going to be really, really interesting over the next 2 years because their economy is starting to hurt a little bit. Their workforce is hurting a little bit, and they just don't have the vaccination numbers to be able to just say like, we're open.
Right.
It's going to be very, very interesting. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Look, I forgot we had the old background. I was so busy looking at the screen. Thank you guys for enjoying the old background. Thank you to Weis Markets.
Wait, you're assuming they enjoyed it.
You don't think
we
they
enjoyed it?
Look at the Go Flamingos. They enjoyed it. You were like the MVP there.
Did they? Weekend. I was like the ringer they brought in out and pulled a hamstring on my second at bat.
You were, and you were still going up to the plate. The best.
Go ahead.
They tried to sell me that you were hurt, and I was like, he walks like that every day.
They're like, Mark says he pulled a hamstring, and he goes, how can you tell? He walks like that all the time.
I literally.
That was so mean. That was so. Wait till you're old.
Here's what's funny. I didn't think you were hurt. I thought
you're saying I walk around like I'm hurt all the time because I'm old and broken.
What I'm saying is when I saw you running around the bases and walking and they were like, Mark's hurt, I was like, no, like that's just Mark running. Like that's just Mark walking. That's what
that is so cruel.
Thank you guys.
Wait until I hope I'm alive long enough to see you get old.
Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. And again, thank you to Weis Markets. We'll be back next week.
Good luck to Canton, Southern Columbia. Did I miss anyone?
State College might still be in it. I don't know if they still are or not. I'll have to look.
They went overtime.
Okay, I'll have to look it up.
And I don't remember. I asked my son, did they win or lose? And he said overtime. But Canton's at Shamokin, I think.
Yep.
I think Canton is local. That would be a fun one to go see.
Yeah, it would be.
And I don't know where Southern plays somewhere. I think, but they're not.
I think they play Trinity.
Is it down there?
I don't know. I'm just telling you. I think they play Trinity.
So anyway, good luck to them, and
wrap it up.
Oh, and the winter sports start.
Yeah,
wrestling. Is the Top Hat this week?
I don't know if it's this weekend. It might be.
It's early,
but there's a bunch of games going on.
There's basketball starting. A lot of season opening. There's some single basketball games. There's some season opening tournaments. Wrestling almost always starts with I think Top Hat is this weekend, but I could be wrong. But so good luck to all those people because it is here we go, off and running, and you can get your shopping done in between.
That's right.
Because 'tis the season for
you're allowed to close the show. I feel like you think you're not allowed to close the show.
I'm not. You're
allowed to
control the buttons. You are the wizard.
I know that, but
not only are you the wizard behind the curtain, but you are.
I know, but if you verbally closed it, I'll just hit the button. It's not, because sometimes you remember things and then you get excited to say them, and so you can close it out.
It's all right. We kind of have our rhythm and our role, and there you go.
Thank you guys.
Oh, one more thing. No, I'm kidding.
We'll see you next week.